Hello, Brother Debiri. This is Martin Cabrera, and this is the video for the final presentation. This is a little side note before I start. I'm sorry I'm delivering this late. It's 5 a.m. here in Uruguay. It's 2 hours after the due time, and I'm recording this for the 10th, 11th time. I'm having Wi-Fi connection since the beginning of this week, and this keeps getting cut off when I'm sharing, but I think I have it solved now. So to start, this is we're gonna first. I'm gonna be showing you the topics that I'll cover in the presentation. So there will be the difference between the static class variable and the non-static class variable, understanding when to use an array in an array list or a num, explain how a for loop works, how to throw and catch custom runtime errors in the program, explains the difference between a character stream and a byte stream, and understanding how to write data to an external file and showing an example of it, and a demonstration of the game. First, the static variable versus the non-static. The static variable um, does not need the instance of the method to be created to work. It is for an entire class and persists throughout the program. It's created when the program starts and it's destroyed when the program ends. A non-static variable, on the other hand, can be only be referenced if the instance of the class is created, and is destroyed as soon as the object is destroyed. We have an example here on, for instance, this private static final int max row. It is used throughout the whole program in many different places, and because this is static, that's possible. Here is an example of a non-static. In the int option chosen, I have it set as view or save, and it is only used inside of this object. When the object is destroyed, the variable is destroyed with it. An array is a fixed length list that can contain any primitive value or object created from classes. However, the elements in that array have to be of the same data type. This is in contrast with the array list. The array list can have multiple uh, items in the list that are different data types. Even though this array has a fixed length, the items can be changed inside of it. So if I assign to index 3 the number 10, and then I want to change it, I can just do that, and that's fine. Uh, as I just mentioned a little bit, the values of the array are referenced by index. So an index is an integer that shows the place of the value from the start of the list. So it's offset from the start of the list. And for example, in an array of 1, 2, 3, the number 1 will be in index 0 because it's 0 from the start of the list. And then the number 2 is index 1 because it's one place away from the start of the list, and so on. So to reference the item on the list, you have to reference it by the index. The array is used when the list is fixed, but you need to change the items on that list, and also the data type has to be equal to be able to use this array list. Well, on the other hand, I said that they can use different data types, and also is more dynamic than the array because the length it's also variable. The primitive data types cannot be referenced directly to in the array, but they need to be created in an object before that happens. And on the array list equal to the array, the items on the list are referenced by the index. So here, for example, I have an example of an array list, which is called create tool list. And as you can see, I'm adding new items to that list, and each addition is creating a new list on a new item on the list. So it's adding a new, it's well, getting the length bigger each time I add a new item. And num, on the other hand, are fixed length and also need to be the same data type, and the values cannot be changed dynamically. Rather, they are created um, before on each index position. They are not referenced by index, but they are referenced by the name. Sorry for that error. The for loop. Here I have a for loop. I have a variable called option chosen that gets called from here, view or save. And if the view or save is a method that asks the user for input. So after the user enters an input, if it is equal to 1, it's going to go into this for loop. This for loop has a variable called I, which is initiated as 0, and for and it has a comparison that if I it's less than provision size, which is the size of the array that I'm running through, it's gonna add I to 1, and it's gonna do this. It's gonna print it's gonna go to the index. It's gonna get that provision name, get the name, add a space, and then the number. So here on this for, this is gonna run the first time when the option chosen equals 1. This is gonna run the first time. It's gonna print the first number on the list, which will be index 0, and then it's gonna add 1 to I, and when it runs again, I is gonna be equal to 1. So it's gonna print the second item on the list, and then it's going to run again, and I is going to be equal to 2, and so on until it gets to the end of the list, which is equal to the size of the array. So provision size I is going to be equal to whatever the size of the array is, so it's going to end there, because there's no more items to show, and it's gonna jump outside of the for loop. Then throw and catch exceptions. We have runtime exceptions that we cannot we can still consolidate the game or the program and have it run, and it won't tell us that there's going to be some runtime exceptions. There are some kind of exceptions that we have control over them, and we can add like a text if something happens. And there's other exceptions are handled in a different way with a try catch. But in this case, we have the throw method that whenever, for instance, in the first line, if acres to sell, which is a parameter that comes from here, is less than 0, it's going to throw this new exception. It's called a negative value was input. For instance, here, if acres to sell is greater than own, which is here, that is getting the acre zone, it's this variable, is going to throw an exception that says you own less land than what you are intended to sell. This is for the program not to run into an error and possibly crash. With the try catch method, we have other different types of exceptions as well. That, for instance, if user input is asked and it has to be a number from 1 to 5, let's say, but the user enters a string like a name, the program, if it didn't have a try catch, is gonna just crash the program. But if it does, it's gonna say, well, if there's something different here, then a value 1 to 5, just throw this, and there's an error message that throws, and it goes back to the initial asking the user for a value. Then we have character stream versus byte stream. The main difference is the ability that the file stream have to read data. Unicode language uses 2 byte stream of data for each character, but byte stream can only read 1 byte of data at a time, so byte stream cannot read Unicode. But it can read binary code in ASCII format. Character stream, on the other hand, can handle all those languages, reading and writing Unicode, binary, and ASCII. Then we have saving data to a file. A file output stream is used to write raw unformatted bytes to a file, and an object output stream is to write primitive data to a type. Primitive data type network object to a file. Sorry for that. Creating an object output stream involves first creating a file output object and then wrapping the file output stream in an object output stream. And here we have an example. So the file path, it comes from user input. So the user input enters the file path, and then we have the file output stream. Like I say, it brings, it's used to write raw unformatted data. It's saved on FIPS. It starts a variable called FIPS and creates a new file output stream with the file path that the user enters. And then the object output stream, which we call the variable object, creates a new object output stream, which brings the parameter FIPS, which is the variable where we save the file path, and it writes the object on output and saves it inside of the game, which is the variable that we have here, and then closes. And it has a try catch exception handling tool. So in case the file path is something different than a real file path, it's going to throw an error that says there was an error right in the save game file. And now I'm going to just do a quick game demonstration. I already have the game running here. So first it asks us for an input from 1 to 5. And I'm going to go to start a new game. Here we have a banner that says, "Welcome to Cedar of Aaron," and a small introduction to it, and it's asked for my name. I'm going to write Martin, and then I can, for instance, view the map. If I put 1, shows me the map, the town map with the key for each part. I can also see the list, variable list, various list. For instance, if I want to see animals in the store, I have to press 1 and then view the list. With 1, I view the list, and here you can see horses 5, cows 150, and so on. Then I can also view the tools in the list. With 1, I press view tools, and it shows me pickaxe, axe, shovel, hoe, and knife. Then I return, I go back, and I quit, and the build is successful. And that's all. I'm sorry for the delay, but I hope this is enough for the assignment. Thank you very much for all the class and all that we learned. I feel that I learned a whole lot on this class. Bye-bye.